We give awards to sports people. Somebody wins the Olympics medals, and it's all in the news, the pictures and their girlfriend. And what about the champions of land restoration? We should also find these people. We should celebrate them. We have a scientific proof that they're champions, not because there's some political party, but we say, no, we are independently looking, and this is the top list.
A long overdue check-in conversation with one of the leading scientists when it comes to Earth observation and remote sensing. One of the most cited in his field, he belongs to the 0.01%. We talk about how much has changed in the almost 3 years in the world of remote sensing, satellites, and all the hype around AI and machine learning and large language models, LLMs. It's a lot of hype and some interesting things, but it also distracts people from the real work which needs to be done. We discuss AI for Soil Health, the European project we are in together, and how we can already monitor and observe most places on a 30 by 30 meter scale from the sky. And importantly, we can now go back on most places in Europe 25 years and see what happened on a field by field basis. We might not know the farmer, but we know his or her fields, and we can train models to look forward and start give actual relevant advice. And we explore how we actually can and should celebrate the farmers and land stewards who have regenerated their plots of land the most over the last decades, objectively. But how do we change a culture which celebrates sports people instead of regenerative farmers? And what's holding some of this work back? Reliable, cheap, in situ, in-field soil health analysis. This is the Investing in Regenerative Agriculture and Food podcast, Investing as if the planet mattered, where we talk to the pioneers in the regenerative food and agriculture space to learn more on how to put our money to work to regenerate soil, people, local communities, and ecosystems while making an appropriate and fair return. Why my focus on soil and regeneration? Because so many of the pressing issues we face today have their roots in how we treat our land and sea, grow our food and what we eat, wear and consume. And it's time that we, as investors, big and small, and consumers, start paying much more attention to the dirt/soil underneath our feet. This podcast is part of the AI for Soil Health project, which aims to help farmers and policymakers by providing new tools powered by AI to monitor and predict soil health across Europe. For more information, visit aiforsoilhealth.eu or find the link below. Welcome to another episode. Today we welcome back Tom, the founder of Environmetrics and OpenGeoHub. Welcome, Tom.
Hi.
So we had you on together with Ish, obviously your partner in crime, in life and in business, I checked in March 2022. And of course, many things have changed in general in the world, but I think in the world of machine learning, AI, large language models, etc., we cannot point at a few years where less has changed. I think like this is, or where more has changed. This has been, it felt like probably a century worth of development squeezed into 3 years. So I'm very much looking forward to check in what you see. You're one of the top scientists in this space and focused on soil health and focused on regeneration. And we've been working together in a European funded project, AI for Soil Health. And we're about halfway in. So I'm also looking forward to check in with you on that. But let's start first with where do we find ourselves now? We're at the beginning of 2025. 24 was a crazy year for anything to do with machine learning and AI. Where do you feel we are? Like, we're now at the beginning of a new year. What excites you, let's say, about all this news over news and fundraising and all kinds of models that can do all kinds of stuff? But what do you see as somebody who's in the inside, who looks in the machine rooms of these things? What excites you at the moment on this?
Okay, stuff? Well, just first to say, things always change with the people. Like, from industrial revolution, everything is going exponentially, let's say, and so this thing that what happened with ChatGPT, which didn't exist more or less last time we spoke, and then it just like took off and became one of the fastest. Most dynamic development in the history of digital technology, but it's also hype. Let's put it also honestly. It's a hype. I mean, it's not that the computer started talking or thinking. they became a sentient or something, conscious. So it is larger hype. I mean, it is quite impressive that today you can have some big models fitted, big LLMs fitted with a lot of data. They could write documents or abstracts or letters that are credible, that you cannot.
They're not perfect.
Yeah, but they're credible.
Really good.
You cannot tell anymore whether there was a human or not. And we did, by the way, last year we did a nice exercise. We called people and we will display a slide. It was about 80 people, and then people have to write whether it's it was an artwork, and whether it's AI generated or generated by a person, And I think the accuracy was 45%. So
wow.
Yeah, people.
It's better to flip a coin.
It's kind of a bit of a test,
But like in your work, like in the remote sensing space, like making sense of imagery that comes from space, imagery and all kinds of layers.
I'm just talking now about these LLMs, these large language models and called generative AI. So that's the AI you use to produce, text, images and things. And behind it, it's kind of machine learning neural network models, And so I'm just talking about that. So there's been a bit of a hype. I'm not too much impressed with it. I still don't use it for like complex things, for solving problems, for like checking some statistical modeling. I mean, for me, it's just like a very advanced search and aggregation tool at the moment. However, it's happening, and the next version will be better, and eventually it might be able to also propose new solutions, and it might replace a lot of jobs. We're talking like maybe 60% of jobs in 10 years. So a lot of jobs, especially all the service jobs. They even mention, I think, like doctors and lawyers. They might be also in this danger zone. Danger zone, yes. But still, for me, it's still a hype, and I don't think for our project, for example, for AI for soil health and for our work, producing next generation soil agronomy data, I don't think I'm too excited about it yet. I'm seeing some advantages, and there are some developments now where because most of LLMs, that people are familiar with, like the Google's Gemini and OpenAI, ChatGPT and others, they are mainly like they generate text or images, right? So that comes out.
And video now, I've seen some examples, but that's just a moving image.
So that's, but what in our field, we're looking at for these geospatial LLMs. So that's what you can extract from geospatial data and from these spatial temporal data cubes. And that could speed up. We like it because it could, all the complex data, the more complex the data, the less users you have, right? And the more multidimensional data, scientific data, the more dimensions, the less users, the higher the complexity. And I think this geospatial AI technology could help reduce that complexity and make it a bit more accessible, a bit more easier for people to go into this like large data pools and get something. Okay, I understand this. This is relevant. So one example is like meteorological climatic data. So let's say climatic data. Climatic data is usually about the past, the weather in the past aggregated over months or seasons or years. And so somebody could go and say now, if you have a climatic data cube, you could train the LLM to get, for example, some summary. For example, say, show me all the countries that have a decrease in the rainfall over the last 30 years. That's a typical thing you would need to
ask to a large language model.
And you will need this data, and you could ask me to do, and I will say, okay, I do it. and I will make a code. I will say, okay, I see what you mean. So I need, for example, map of the countries. I need to run aggregation. I need to calculate the changes over years. And then I have to sort them, and I have to pick up the one at the top. And I say, this is the country. And now LLM can basically generate, because, LLMs are also used for coding. So LLM will generate a code, a Python code, R code, I don't know, which will use these variables exactly how they're in the system. And it will run very quickly. If it's a short operation, it will run, few seconds. And then it will say, here's the result. And it can provide textual output, but it can also provide a map. Also, it can be scientific output,
Publication,
it could be also interactive map. And that's really magical, because you're basically, the speed up of, like if you look, for example, 10 years ago and now, or in next few years, the speed up will be like really exponential. So, because 10 years ago, somebody will ask you that question, and you will say, I'll come back to you in about 1 week or 2 weeks. I have to, make a code, test it, and
now you come back with a map.
And now you don't need you don't need an analyst, you don't need an expert at all.
Wow.
It's just the data and the user. You understand? So there's nobody in between that.
Which is liberating.
It is. It's absolutely, as I said, it can really speed up people using data, people making decisions with the scientific data, because we have this problem increasingly. Like for example, in European Union, there's a European Commission. I think it's 90 billion euros a year invested into research, and this it's very efficiently. This money goes and people create new data. There's also European Space Agency has this Earth observation programs, like Sentinel, Copernicus Sentinel, and then they generate so much new data, and it's a fantastic data. And we are now in a problem that we don't have capacity anymore to manually to analyze the data. For example, we at OpenGeoHub, we have less and less time just to open the maps, to look at the maps. We have increasing problem. We have like this, like a 10,000 or 100,000 layers, and we cannot visualize it. I mean, we have a problem too, because we cannot just open every map and look, So we need some ways that we can even visualize and summarize that data before we can look at things. And so we have more and more of this gap. And what AI technology is going to help, people will be able to much faster get summaries, trends in the data, get information that you can use for decisions, but without any analyst in between. So you could have potentially at the same time, 100,000 people accessing the same data and getting outputs. And that's very exciting.
Yeah.
And also, the new Earth observation missions. I don't know if you know that, but many people are not aware of it. But
then probably
there's so many things happening. This is way more now. I think it's way more dynamic, because it's a systematic. For example, both European Union and United States and Japan and many of these countries, they have very systematic plan to increase number of satellites, diversity of satellites, spatial resolution, revisit times. Now you have first hyperspectral satellite open data.
What does that mean? Just for
hyperspectral.
What is hyperspectral?
So the Landsat is the original, land monitoring program, started 60s, 70s, and from the Landsat 5, 6, it became a bit more interesting because it was high resolution, and it had 7 or 8 bands. So this had like 8 bands, and one band is, for example, near infrared, So, but it doesn't see in that band. You don't see the differences within that part of spectra. There's no differences. It doesn't see. It kind of smooths out the signal. So now with the hyperspectral, you get like 800 bands, 1,000 bands, 1,200 bands.
Wow. So let's say that the resolution or the you can see way more potentially, but it also creates way more data than 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago.
You're like in a position to basically detect type of material, to detect, they're testing it now
Leaves.
still, but you can detect vegetation, species, not just here's vegetation, but you can say this is this species, this is this species. And so that's really amazing, not to talk about, geological material and soil and stuff, so you will be able to detect in much finer precision and much better accuracy, probably many things. So there's lots of.
But then what do we do? Because it will generate like an infinite amount more data, even more compared to now. Like yes. What the terabytes and terabytes or petabytes?
We are already in petabytes scales, yeah. So what can you do? So then the part of when European Union, European Space Agency, when they make some program, then they say, okay, we also have to dedicate some budget to test, develop applications and to test also accuracy and things, and then slowly then they test that. It always goes with iterations. It goes like a couple of years they test and they say, okay, this doesn't work. Maybe we need another satellite, and they can change. But it's a huge interest is in, for example, the emissions. I think Sentinel-3, it's so emissions of gases, greenhouse gases, and also pollution. That's a huge interest in that, and you would like to know every day basically what happens. Then Sentinel-2 is a huge interest in high resolution 10 meter to follow biophysical indices globally. And I think you get images, I think, every second week or something. So that's also really powerful. Then you have also a corporation company, which is with us in the AI for Soil Health. We're very happy, planet.com. And they used to be called Planet Labs, I think. And we're very excited they're with us. And they have also a suite of new things, services, data. They're very ambitious, of course. And I think they have these smaller satellites, these CubeSat satellites. So they have a higher quantity. And higher quantity allows them to do much faster revisit times. So now they are aiming at daily revisit time. And they're aiming at 1 meter resolution. And they already made some global products at 1 meter. There is a canopy height product of the world at 1 meter. It's a mind-blowing.
And canopy height means you can see how high the trees are.
Exactly, you can see the height of the trees. You can see also height of buildings and all the construction sites and things.
At 1 meter, you can see individual trees.
You can see individual trees. Also, you have multiple pixels for one tree, so you could also quantify that tree.
But that's within the company, but like, how does that work with data and open source
I
and
think
accessibility?
As far as I understand, I don't want to represent them, I don't work for them.
We'll get them on.
But I have a feeling that a standard business model today, it's a kind of you pay subscription, you will register to, for example, if you own the land or some area. If you're a farmer, I don't know, and you say, well, I would like for my farm, I would like to get from you the best data. And I just need it for my farm, So you will pay per square area, I don't know, and you get like, every week you will get, or maybe every day you get the data. And so it becomes like a telephone provider or like many things today.
Weather, premium weather.
Exactly. You pay some subscription and they basically feed you with this data, and then they feed you with better data. And I don't want to say it's kind of like a Netflix, but you know what I mean. It's a new business model with this subscription. It kind of companies are becoming like governments a bit, because government also has a subscription, so that's the taxes you pay, right? So you don't really sell the products anymore. You kind of just register for subscription. But it is still exciting because Planet. They're very good at it, and they can make really effective products. And these products, probably, if you manage land and if you really want the highest quality data very fast, they could really help you manage land, and then you will pay just this cost of that service. It will pay itself off. it will pay itself off because it helps you optimize your system. And if you make a saving somewhere like 20%, you will for sure you will pay off that service. So it's a win-win. It's a win-win, of course.
Like, how does this data lead to farmers or land stewards or forest owners or et cetera, or investors to make different decisions? Like, how do we make sure, because you mentioned before, like how we're now able in some cases to turn the data into something more visual, which probably is already more accessible for many people. But how do we make sure that many people, not just 1% or 0.1%, is even able to understand what is presented to them and like gives them options to, okay, what should I do tomorrow to change something? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this going in the right direction or not going in the right direction? Like, how do we give people decision-making capabilities?
So if you look at the biggest decision services, like let's just take, for example, Google Maps, right? So apparently every day 1.5 billion people uses Google Maps. And if you say this is like usually a father, if you take the families also, you're talking maybe half of the planet uses Google Maps every day. So what is Google Maps? Usually people use it to find something, to navigate in the car, to find some telephone number they have to call because it also integrates everything. Then to check, connections when they travel, trains, flights, I don't know. So it's all kind of now integrated. So that's a really professional digital service. And now you say, well, how do we get things we do in area for soil health? How do we get it to that level? So it's a massively used, it becomes really massive. And many are still not there. I think Planet from commercial ones, what I saw, they are very ambitious. And as I said, they have their own satellites. I think they produce, that's what I heard. I don't know, it's a rumor, but they produce actually more data than European Space Agency. So whether that's the same comparable, whether it's the same quality of data, that's irrelevant. But let's say if you just look at the petabytes, they claim to produce more data. So now let's say they produce this data and they can optimize it for clients. They can make it, and if they make it like a Netflix that you pay, most of services today, I think people are ready to pay like maybe 10 euros or $10 a month. That's okay, that's fine. I pay that. It's not, if it's less, it's better, right? But so when it gets to that level, then it can become massive usage, and it has to be optimized for the clients. I think many farmers, they're also businessmen. Farmers, I mean, there are some farmers a bit religious, let's say. I met some, but most of them, they are businessmen, right? So farmers will immediately go into that if they see that they can also profit from it. If you can show them, like, look, you can decrease your cost, you can optimize your harvest, you can
see what's happening in that field.
You have some damage, if you have some damage on the farm, and we can provide you how much damage, where's the damage, so you can get insurance money and things like that. So if businesses convince farmers into that, then I think many will go. They will say, yeah, that's a very interesting. The other thing is the policy. The policy is also going to change. You see, it's changing slowly. We have this Green New Deal in European Union. There's a whole list of milestones that we would like to reach by 2030, 2040, 2050, and many would have to transition. So we are, at least European Union has accepted this transition. Let's say now people vote a bit less, unfortunately they vote more anti-immigration and things, anti-EU. But let's say it will still stay, so we will go to this Green Deal transition. Everybody has to transition. Transition means, most importantly, reduce to zero, if possible, greenhouse gases emissions, switch to the alternative sources of energy, heat pumps, solar energy, nuclear energy, I don't know. And also then we have to recycle. We have to recycle much better materials. We have to produce more food at a smaller area. We have to minimize the losses. We have to also adjust to the climate change. So some places you'll have to change because there will be more droughts. Some places will get hotter. I don't know. So all these things, there's a lot of work to be done. And this is where these technologies, they can play a very important role. Because anything with the land, you start with the planning. And for planning, you need the maps, you need the geospatial data. And then also the culture is now changing. For example, if you look at some agriculture, let's say 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, if you go to a farm and if you ask, like, what did you do? What was in this farm last 50 years? What has been done? What have you put inside? What have you changed?
What did you take out?
What was your soil carbon 20 years ago? Many people don't know. Many farmers they go from year to year. They seed and harvest and then they live from the output. But many people don't know what is really happening, and it's really too scientific. Many things are like still quite scientific today, like soil biology. This plastic, this microplastic, and other pollutants. People have no idea. They don't even know. Oh, wow, you can measure that. And now this thing I think it's going to change, and I think we could, within let's say 10 years, we could go to like a total monitoring system, and environmental monitoring. Now we do have a monitoring like we have in the cities and urban areas. They are heavily monitored. You have the cameras for security. You have the sensor for the speed. So we have already the urban cities, urban areas monitored in Europe, let's say. But now we have also the environment. You will have this monitoring, but it will be mainly based by satellite-based systems, so Earth observation. So it will be non-destructive, but we will have that monitoring, and we'll have a full monitoring. We'll be able to really see if, literally, I think now I saw some, I don't want to mention any names, but I saw some people told me, now, even with the public data, open data, not Planet, open data, you can potentially track and detect even when the people cut one tree. Everywhere in the world, if the people cut one tree, you could potentially, with scientific, you could detect it. Yes, it's
which triggers a lot of questions on like privacy and like what do you make of that when not everything, but let's say the eyes in the sky are monitoring always.
That's a bit of philosophical, ethical, let's say, discussion. For example, when you say today, I really see it's very corrupt. In general, human culture, we have this idea that we own the land and that we own the animals, and like we are kind of like the gods, right? And we can, for example, imagine. Maybe 100 years ago, I don't know, somebody has a land and one day says, okay, cut all the trees, right? And if you own the land, if you're some duke or something, like who can stop you? There's nothing. Yeah. Even now in the world, people can just go and cut forest and they can say, okay, just strip all the land, I don't know, or like they can say, okay, I want to build here, I don't know, some big pool, I want to put I want to do some heavy industry, And that was possible. But today in Europe, you own the land. It's like you can check the regulations, you can check the law. In Netherlands, if you own some, I don't know, 2 hectares of land and you have trees and you think you can just go and cut every tree, but you cannot. You need to have a permission.
License. And it's already monitored.
Right. And also you need to make a plan also for if you have some land with trees, you have to, I think if you own it, you have to make up every 5 years, you need to management plan and things. And you
which is never enforced now, or very rarely. So you're saying basically the regulation is already there.
I think it was also
never been easy to.
Personally, I find it more and more this idea that people own the land, that you
ridiculous
own everything on the land, and you are like God. You can do. I mean, it's it can go really bad, and eventually, the ecosystem is the one. So everything you do on your land, it has an effect on other people. So we are really into this together, and eventually, I think in the future it will be less and less. It will less and less about even discussion that somebody individually can decide about, plants, animals, water, soil, whatever. So it's a
needs to be part of a watershed.
Yes, it's kind of commons. It's a. However, of course, you if you own the land, you have the commercial rights, to that land, and.
But doesn't need to be the same. Like ownership could be detached from the commercial right.
You can detach it. So it is possible to combine that. But anyway, I think there's going to be a total monitoring within 10 years. It will be for sure possible with technology, and I was actually even thinking, this financial. Benefits and the subsidies, agricultural subsidies. Before, agricultural subsidies used to be like a bit bureaucratic, and you have to apply, you wait, And I think it can all be speed up. And so, for example, whoever does in the future, because if we talk about this European Green Deal, if you talk about energy and food production transition, then anybody who does it good, anybody who's champions, they should be really rewarded. And they should be rewarded without bureaucracy. They should be very quickly,
Which is not the case now.
Absolutely not the case.
If you look at the CAP subsidies, which is the biggest subsidy scheme on agriculture.
Even you have this paradox that you want these people that they should apply and they should convince you that they're champions. But we can see, we have this Earth observation data, all these images, so we can see. I mean, you have, for example, you have also 30 meter and 30 centimeter and 10 centimeter images that exist from satellite.
Wow.
So you can see, cars and even leaves, almost you could see. So
you can see the plowing.
I think Maxar and this company, they specialize in the very high resolution VHR. So this is at the moment, I think it's 30 centimeters standard, but I heard that there's also 10 centimeter coming. And so what happens is that, you can see all this stuff, and government should really locate these people that are champions. So anybody who does, for example, effective regenerative agriculture, regreening, building terraces, dams, land regeneration, restoration. Anybody who does that,
should be,
the government should come to them. We know what you're doing. We have tax benefits for you. We have, we would like to put you on our website. I don't know, and all these things. They could really change the atmosphere. I mean, people should really, the people that are champions of land restoration. I mean, what's the most important when you think in the future? Like from let's say most important is we don't have the Third World War and things like that, and we managed to get out of this Cold War between these big nations. And but let's say beyond that, what's very important is ecosystem, climate, our soils. Soils are foundation of civilization. If you cut a forest, right? I don't know if I said it already, but if you cut a forest, if you do a clear cut, you go somewhere in Brazil, you do clear cut. These trees, they need time to grow back. You could cut the forest, immediately plant new forest, and in 60 years, you get 60, 80 years, you get the forest back. But the soil, it takes 160 years for 1 centimeter. So if you cut the forest and it's in a place where soil can erode, if you lose the soil, and if I tell you, okay, now you take 10,000 years to get the soil back, you can forget it. It's game over. Who has 10,000 years to wait? You cannot go and I'll just go buy soil. I lost soil. I go buy. How much soil? How much soil did you lost? I lost about 150 million tons of soil. You bankrupt. You're bankrupt basically if you.
I think that notion still is very. Little understood. And to go back to AI for soil health, like we're halfway in and through, like where are we with the data cube? Like what is, we're currently at the beginning of 2025. Like what is, let's say, a lay of the land or a photograph if you had to take it now Like where's the work currently, and what is going on at the moment?
Yes. So I have for Soul Health, soulhealth.eu domain. You can check.
I'll put the link below.
So we just passed 18 months. We had a review, 18 months review, and we're doing some really good progress. So some of the things we managed to produce data-wise, we made a bi-monthly time series of biophysical indices for Europe for the last.
Okay, you have to explain.
So for example. We use the Lancet because we are interested in the last 25 years, so up to 30 years we're interested. So this is if you take the Lancet images, you can derive some kind of a proxy. They're not like really measurements from the space. They are kind of proxy. For example, vegetation index, NDVI. So that's a vegetation. It estimates how much vegetation you have, how much leaf area you have, how much photosynthesis is happening. So you can estimate it based on the combination of near infrared and green band, etc. And so you estimate that, and this is one biophysical index. So one is, for example, the vegetation is. Second is, for example, bare soil. If you know the vegetation, then if you inverse it, you can check every month how much of the soil is bare. So when somebody does, very intensive tillage, plowing, the soil will be bare. It's really it will be zero vegetation, right? And so there's no photosynthesis. And you could say, well, this soil was bare for like 2 months. And then you can do that for every pixel for last 30 years. And there is one index which called tillage index. So how intensive was this tillage? And we now mapped it for whole Europe, tillage for the last 30 years.
Wow.
And I don't know, I think it's the first time. There was some similar product.
So the last 30 years, you can go back
25
and say
we now have, 25.
And for how big are the parcels?
The pixel is 30 meter.
Okay.
With Copernicus, you could do the same at 10 meter. Yes. Copernicus is only 2016, 2020, the present time. Or 2017, and so you can do like a 30 meter, and it's amazing. You can now look at the farms, and now for every pixel, what we do trend analysis, and we can say how much the tillage intensity changed. So
where no tillage or low tillage has been used a lot. Or
even we don't know the farmers, we don't know what they do, but we can see that somewhere, and we added also Turkey and Ukraine because they're candidate countries. So we have the whole European Economic Area, UK, we have the Western Balkans, and we have the Switzerland and Turkey and Ukraine. And for all these places, we have 25 years tillage intensity, bare soil coverage, vegetation indices, etc. Then using that data, we also combine it with this big monitoring programs of European Commission. One of them is called Lucas, and there's a component called Lucas Soil. And they did like a 4 systematic surveys. Each survey about 20,000 locations in Europe. They take samples. And we took the data and we ran pan-European space-time models to predict changes in soil carbon density. So that's or soil carbon density, soil carbon stocks. And so we also analyze that to see how much people gain or lose carbon. So we also have that. This is a bit more complex because we need to fit models to estimate that, and there are, the soils are hidden, right? Like many things from satellite images, everything which is vegetation, buildings, water areas, floods, you just have an image and you can delineate. But soils are beneath, so they're a bit hidden, and soils have layers, right? So you have to also map them in 3D. So what we produce now, this Soil Health Data Cube for Europe, we produce 3D plus T, so 3D plus time. So you have space, you have the depth, you go to depth, and you have in time. So it's a space-time data cube, and it allows you to do all this trend analysis, and this is all part of our general framework for soil health assessment. And it's a very comprehensive framework, it is very new. I know other soil health assessment frameworks, which are more like you come to the location and you take the samples and you go send them to lab, you get back the results and say, this is your soil health. Our framework is like, I don't know, I don't want to be too arrogant, but I would say about between 500 to 1,000 times more complex, because our framework has 7 steps. And the first step is that we take these terabytes of data. Actually, we just analyze 1.2 petabyte of Landsat images, and we take petabyte of data, and then we analyze these biophysical indices, and we fit the trends per pixel. So we fit trillions of models to map these positive, negative trends and changes. And to then first to see for any farm, we said first we look what happened here last 25 years. We want to know what happened, how much the land cover changed, did you change your cropping systems, how much the tillage changed, vegetation, do you have this primary productivity, is it increasing or decreasing, is it just noisy? It could be just noisy, just oscillations. But we see at some places we can really see there are negative trends, and we can plot that trend of Europe that you cannot see in this complex data. There's no way you can see, if you just look at this image, or somebody shows you image, you could see, okay, there's some changes. But when you take biophysical data, biophysical indices, and you analyze the trends, then you can really do interpretation. And you can...
Does it make you curious, like to go to like some places...
Absolutely,
like, really
absolutely.
stick out. You're like, wow, yes, I would love to go to this location
absolutely,
in Austria
absolutely.
or this in Spain because something happened.
Because we have now 25 years. If we have done this like 10 years ago, if you have on like, for example, 5 to 10 years of these satellite images, it's a bit more difficult to say whether something is a trend or you have, for example, drier, wetter years or something, right? But when you have like 25 years and you see in these 25 years, maybe 20 bit up, down, but in general, it is going down. Let's say the primary productivity, the GPP or the NPP, if it's going down and you fit it and you say this coefficient of negative change, it's statistically significant. So it's kind of like going to doctor, The doctor will say you, give me your blood samples, I analyze them, and then after the test, they say, look, I look at your blood test, you have inflammation or you have some infection, probability 99.99%, right? And this thing we can do now, that's why it's called soil health, right? Also because we are doing we're kind of a doctors for soil and for the land. And what we are looking for this 25 years of data, and we're looking, is there something negative happening? There's some negative process, and how much is it? And where are the locations where it's negative? Likewise, you have also places where you have a positive process. Positive. So some people...
Even more interesting if they're similar regions.
They can be neighbors. They are next to each other. We had some places in Netherlands we looked, and we saw really they are neighbors, and one has a negative and one has a positive. So one is a champion and the other is like, not really planning for the future, I guess. And so we see them next to each other, and this is only possible because of this high resolution data.
And because you can go back 25 years.
And because you can get 25 years.
Which is not so high risk. But there's
even better will be 50 years. Officially, there is data from 1985. There's a Landsat data.
And what's missing? What do you need to analyze that? It's cleaning up the pictures?
Because they had the different systems, different sensors. So you need to harmonize the sensors, because imagine there were a couple of research papers where they detected some changes, but the changes were not because of change in the nature, but they were changes because changes in sensors. And that's what gets complicated. So as you go beyond 1997, 30 meter, it becomes more and more difficult. So you need to put a lot of effort. It's kind of a...
And is that worth it or not?
I would say give us a couple of years, we might go back. We are like this movie, Back to the Future. We are like many people excited about future, what's happening. Actually, now I look at lots of work we do. What I'm really interested is to try to reconstruct as far as possible we can go. To really reconstruct objectively, not by people's stories, not by,
I thought this was it. So we have my parents.
So really objective. Yeah. So based on satellite images, based on most objective data, aerial photographs, satellite images, and we want to reconstruct, because if you can reconstruct last 50 years, if you can reconstruct the climate change, land degradation, pollution, if you can reconstruct it, then if you fit a reliable models, then you can use this model to predict the future.
That was going to be my last question, actually. Like, has that future, I'm not saying predictions, but like, what do you tell, let's say, the champion farmer? You have the two farmers next to each other, the neighbors. And like, how
they don't
much
even know. They don't know that
them?
some are champion. Some people, they do things and they are very nice, and they read a bit about the, regenerative agriculture. They read about how to change some practice.
But how can we help them to do even more? Like, are these models like not only looking back, which is fundamental, but you just went to a point of how do we then predict the future or help them make decisions?
We're very interested, we are the Data Science Institute, Spatial Data Science Institute, but we are very interested in this social component. And so how do you, because we make this data and we have now, it's open data, everybody can use it. There's no, our mission is really just to promote people using environmental data and changing their culture, really to change to restoration culture. That's really our mission. And so now we have this data, but we need to reach the people and we need to train them to use it. And we need also governments and all these agencies to realize, they have to realize there's these champions. And, we give awards to sports people. Somebody goes, wins the Olympics medal something, or they play in the finals or something, and it's all in the news, and the pictures and their girlfriends.
That's our culture.
And their girlfriends and their TikTok channel, I don't know. And what about the champions of land? What about the champions of land restoration? We should also find these people. We should celebrate them. We should say it's not. It's scientifically, we have a scientific proof that they're champions. Not because there's some political party or I don't know, but we say no. We are independently looking, and this is the top list. And today you have in Europe, for example, Netherlands, all the boundaries of all the farms, you can download them. It's public data. It's very nice in Netherlands. So you can, so it's called digital cadastre, right? So you can download, I have it on my computer. It's like a 2 gigabyte file with the polygons. And I can download it. Okay, I don't see the people that are owners, I don't know who the owners. But let's say if I could somehow locate these people, I could send them all this data.
You can select the champions.
I could send them the data and say, look, you have really positive score. How do you do it? Tell us your story. And then you connect people, to start interacting, to start exchanging, and then we change this culture that we celebrate these people, right? That we celebrate the people who are most efficient in the green transition. That we really, both as a government should celebrate them somewhere officially, but also unofficially through social media, if as long as people know, they will celebrate. It is a bit like sports, and I am very jealous about sports, because people are so much, especially, I come from originally from Croatia, and the sports is, super important. And I was always jealous how these sports people, like everybody knows about them. They know about their girlfriends, about habits, and they follow their social channels, But
why not land stewards?
Yeah, but what about some good biologists or some ecologists that did something on the ground? And there is our colleagues on the project from ETH. They made this restored.eco. Restored.eco is kind of a crowdsourcing system for people to kind of register and say, I'm going to do land restoration on my land, and then they provide help. They provide some tutorials, I don't know, and
Funding
yes, and
as
they
well.
also
Yeah,
they
there's
want to similar like what we do. They want to track, and see whether they really do that land restoration.
Yeah.
And they are, apparently, I think they have now about 200,000. I don't take me officially. I'm just
but it's a big group.
It's really growing, and they were very excited. We were in Vienna now. We just had this global workshop on a OpenNet Monitor project, and they were there. They were presenting, and they say, people are interested. They would like to sign up, and it could be like a Facebook for land book or something. I don't know.
But it's an interesting culture shift. Like, how do we celebrate the people that are, like, we have the top 50 farmers now? Like, how do we make sure, like, we celebrate chefs almost more than farmers, which is crazy.
Yes.
And how do we, and of course the sporting side, etc. And people like you as well. You're in the top 0.01% of scientists, and it's just not recognized.
I'm
recognized in our
0.1% most cited. I'm just the most cited. Doesn't mean that I'm a high quality. Just people cite me a lot.
No, there is a connection there. Let's leave it to other people. But let's say you're well established in your space, and you know.
But I'm not talking about. So this is just the land, right? But listen, in the green
true.
transition, but also people that, like, for example, switch to the move away from gas heating, solar energy, solar panels.
You can see that
exactly. Recycling of materials, all of this stuff. We should have some way to track that and to celebrate these people, especially that are very good at it.
It's interesting you make the point of celebrate, not punish the ones that don't.
Exactly.
I think it's a very nice. It's a very good cultural difference.
You can also. I think it. When I told you this full monitoring system, let's say within 10 years you have a full monitoring. It might happen. I just spoke with somebody from European Commission, and I said, "What about, somebody makes a spill or something, some garbage spill, or somebody does something which is not in the plan, and you can see it on satellite images. Like when you drive a car, at least in Netherlands, in Germany, a bit different, but in Netherlands they just send you a letter pay." Right, you've been driving
with the speed.
Yeah, I drive sometimes like they are very precise in Netherlands. I drive like 7 kilometers above. I drove like 107, and they allowed 100, right? And I get I think it's 35 euros and 40 euros bill. And there's like, this is the bill, and that's it. Just pay, right? And so it could happen also with environment.
Yeah.
With environment, you could. So you're not driving the car, but you have a land and. You're
driving the tractor.
You promise you're going to do, let's say, no tillage or something, but now suddenly we see you doing tillage and you get a fine, And
that, I think we get into, that's a whole different conversation, which is for another time, but it gets into like how, I think when we reward people for, like, it's the difference on practices versus outcome. And like if people, because even tillage to a certain, there are ways of tillage that sometimes are beneficial. There are ways of soil disturbance that are not completely horrible. There are, like, it's always a bit more nuanced. Of course, we don't want like a tillage fee that but if it harms the soil health, if it harms the productive quality, etc., it might need to. But I think I love the celebration piece, but we'll need both because we have a lot of these rules. We have a lot of these, and it's never or almost never reinforced on methane, on spillage, on pollution, on rivers. Like none of that, or very little of that, is actually being monitored, or let alone even being fined. So there's a whole world there to discover. But I want to be conscious of your time as well, and wrap up this check-in one in 18 months after the start of AI for Soil Health, and almost 3 years after we checked before. And of course, we'll be checking in with you as this project comes further, and as well, I think the world of AI, like even if we talk 6 months from now, a lot of new things will be happening, even though you said I'm excited, but not so excited about the hype.
It's a hype. It's there's still, we have to see, there's a lot of noise also being generated, and it creates an illusion, even it damages some people, creates an illusion they don't have to do the work anymore. And also it can be misused, there's a more perils of AI technology, like especially the deep fake videos, and to manipulate people, especially by governments and things. I do feel like there's one thing I didn't have time to talk, and I would like to mention it. So you have this satellite technology. You have also the drones today. You can buy a drone, probably there will be soon like tractors will go automatically. There will be like like a robot taxi, So lots of things they're coming. But there's one thing in AI for soil health we discovered. It's a kind of a bottleneck. We need more like way cheaper lab data. So this is like somebody is on the field and they take a sample of the soil. And this is something I was thinking is going to take off, but it's actually we're really stuck. And like I was thinking something like analysis, you take a little sample of soil and let's say you pay 100 euros, you pay 100 euros and you get everything basically. Yeah. And I was looking at the prices. No way. It's very expensive still. It's also bulky, and this whole spectroscopy also had a big hope because the same stuff you have from space, you have the multispectral data, and now you could also have this even handheld sensors, to scan the samples on the ground. But also that is highly complex. It's still not moving fast.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in the show notes. We had somebody on with a drill-based system in the US mainly. Very promising, but absolutely not there yet. And there's some others.
Yes, I don't want to mention names. I know most of them, I don't want to mention names. They do say always, we have a solution, this is it. And then you look at the cost, and the costs are way, way up. It's not something you will do like massively, and just somebody who has a small chunk of land, smallhold farmers, they would not get into it. So but for example, it's really pity because as a person, if you want to do the blood test, you'll pay some small amount and next day you get the results, right? So when do we want to have a blood test for soil that you get the next day results and it
can feed your models,
and it costs like $100 or something, and that's still way. And I'm thinking, who is responsible for that? Why are we so late to that? And it is a bit shared responsibility. Entrepreneurs, because I think they have too focused.
Labs as well. We've seen many labs where you send the same sample to different labs, you get different results.
And if it wasn't for European Commission, I'll tell you now honestly, if it wasn't for European Commission that did this Lucas soil, this project, pan-European soil projects would have been so difficult, because if it's so expensive, right, and you have nothing to start with, it would have been, we will be in this paradoxical situation that we basically, have all this data, satellite images, aerial photos, and we have no idea about the soil. We actually, if somebody asks, like, do you have a microplastic soil? No idea. Do you have some pollutants? No idea. What's your soil organic carbon? No idea. So we would have been really tabula rasa if it wasn't for this Lucas soil. And even with this Lucas soil, it's still limited. I mean, it's a peanut, How much big is the value of the land and the agriculture products and things? It's really like it's a per meal, or 1 millionth of the cost, And so that's it worries me, because we have very little ground data in situ, and also there's no solution. I actually think this AI for Soil Health project, it might even finish. It will finish in 3 years. It might finish, and we still won't have something that we give to the farmers to say, hey, you want to do your soil blood analysis, here, and you can do it. It's inexpensive. You should absolutely do it. Now I cannot tell them that. If I say, they will say, you told me, and I have to spend 50,000 euros, and it's not going to work.
That's not going to happen. Yeah. No. Let's check in and see where we get. I think there's work being done there, but it's very tricky to do that in situ, in field to replicate.
There is technology, but somebody has to put that technology to make it operational and to make it easy,
make it cost effective,
massive usage, and this thing I don't see. It's not happening.
Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on here and share.
Good luck with your podcast. We always love to watch in the weekends, and we did so much interesting stuff on your podcast. So many interesting characters, very personal stories. It's we also share it with our friends, by the way, who are not specialists. So, but well done. So also kudos to you, Kun.
Thank you so much. AI for Soil Health is funded by the European Union and has received funds from the UK Research and Innovation under the UK government's Horizon Europe funding guarantee. For more information, visit aiforsoilhealth.eu or in the links below. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. For the show notes and links we discussed in this episode, check out our website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com/posts. If you like this episode, why not share it with a friend or give us a rating on Apple Podcasts? That really helps. Thanks again, and see you next time.